a previous JobsWorth guest. The other one was my mate Phil, the sausage one. What is your favourite sausage?
You can't go wrong with Cumberland, can you?
Okay, cool. All right, thank you for that. Hello and welcome back to JobsWorth. This week we are speaking to Luke Williams, who is the founder of Essex Metalworx. What is it that Luke does? This is quite a hard one to define. I describe him as someone that makes cool shit. I say that a lot of times during the episode. And whilst it's not the most articulate way of describing what someone does for a living, I think in Luke's case it's entirely true. You might not know the name Luke Williams, but you would have definitely walked past some of these work if you live in or around Leigh-on-Sea. And this was a really lovely conversation to have. I think Luke's story will resonate with a lot of people. I think the journey he's on to find exactly what he wants to do will also resonate. And he's reaching this really lovely time in setting up his own business where he can now start to say no to projects that don't get him excited. And I think for anyone that starts a business, that's a really lovely place to be. So please enjoy the episode. As always, get involved in the comments, let us know what you think, and stay tuned for next week. Right, Luke, we are going to start with the opening question on the podcast. You've listened to a couple of these, so hopefully you know roughly what to expect with this one. But when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
For a long time, I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Okay, I'm trying to think. We've had that before.
And I don't know why. Just a fascination with the sea.
Okay.
And fish.
Yeah.
And I was quite good at science at school.
Okay.
So it just kind of ended up being something that you kind of got advised to do, I suppose.
Right, okay.
Yes, I think that was the one, yeah.
So did you ever pursue that in any way academically? So you said you were good at science. Did you ever follow that route a little bit further?
Absolutely not, no.
Can you pinpoint where the inspiration came from? Other than liking the sea, was there a book that you read or a show that you watched?
No, do you know what the point was? We went, as teenagers, we went on like the family holiday to Orlando. Okay. SeaWorld.
Yeah.
Getting to swim with dolphins. That was like, it felt like a life-changing moment when I must have been 13 at the time. Yeah. So that was kind of, coming back and going, I want to do something like this.
Yeah. I guess having that experience at 13, I went to SeaWorld when I was 4. I don't think you can get away with going to SeaWorld now. I don't know if you've watched Blackfish, the documentary. It makes it quite hard to go there now.
It's a little bit of a bad sore point, isn't it?
Yeah, a bit of a sore point. But back then it was fine. And then I can imagine, though, having that experience of being in the water. It's funny because we're going to go on to talk about what you're doing now, and it doesn't involve water in any way, shape, or form. No. But at least you had that dream growing up.
Yeah, it was a nice dream. My parents approved of it as well.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So, what was your experience at school like? Because again, good at science, academically pretty solid.
You know what? Yes, I was, but I didn't enjoy school that much.
Okay. Why?
I just couldn't focus, really.
Right.
I don't think I enjoyed certain lessons, but just trying to keep my brain focused in class, and it always comes in my school report as well.
Right.
Luke's attention span doesn't last.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was it for me.
Yeah.
Education, not so much education, but I think school.
Right.
Was just didn't keep me engaged enough, maybe.
Yeah. Have you looked back at it now, because you're mid-30s, aren't you? So looking back at that time at school, I have a lot of conversations with people that come on the podcast about maybe that environment and maybe that structure. People want to learn, just not the way that it's put on a plate for us at that age. It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's too regimented, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So did you leave secondary school and did you go into college? What happened once you left? Because you went to Swain, which we've discussed. I went to Fitz, so there is a rivalry, and I promise we won't fight. But that was an old rivalry between those two schools. But what happened after Swain?
I left and just had a bit of time off. I didn't really know what I wanted to do at all. I did start a barbering course.
Okay.
Yeah, I started that. I knew I wanted to do something creative, I think. I think that's always where I was going to go. So I looked at this barbering course and I probably went for a couple of weeks. Lost interest again.
Right. Was it too reminiscent of school, or you just weren't ready to learn in that way?
Again, I'm more of a hands-on person.
Okay.
So having to sit and do theoretical stuff.
Right. Which I'd imagine there's not much of that in barbering, but maybe the way it was being taught to you.
But it was a strange one. And then again, once I finished there, I then started, it must have been a year after, my dad wanted me to go and learn to be a sparky. So I started a sparky course, and I'd done that again. I probably lasted about 6 weeks because I thought we'd be learning how to do the job. And it ended up being maths, science, and again, in the classroom, I was only in the classroom 1 day a week, and it just disengaged me again.
Okay.
So I get just not good in classrooms.
At that time, what was the pressure like from your dad? Because you mentioned it was your dad kind of get you onto the sparky course, but yeah, what was it like? Did he put pressure on you to do it, and then was he slightly disappointed? I don't want to talk ill of your dad, but was he disappointed when you stopped?
Yeah, I think so. Right. I think so. Yeah. So my dad's a tradie as well.
Okay.
When I had that period of not knowing what I wanted to do from leaving school, and then a space between going to college, he would drag me out every day.
Right.
I had to work with him.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
But he made that his thing. If you're not doing anything, if you're not sitting around,
you're coming with me.
You're.
At that age, did you resist that, or did you? Because looking back on that, it sounds, you can tell by the look on your face that maybe you're grateful for that and having that experience. But at the time, were you just like, fuck off?
Of course you are. Yeah. No, I just want to go and hang out with my mates.
Yeah.
But grateful for it now.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I think it's probably pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it gives you a work ethic. Like I remember my stepdad, when I was 15, he was a scaffolder. He's been a scaffolder for decades and decades and decades. When I was 15, just knocking about in the summer, he'd go, come and work as a labourer in the yard with us. And I was oiling scaffold fittings for 6 weeks, sat in a dark, dingy, metal corrugated iron shed, which was shit. But it taught me, at the time I hated it, but it gave me cash in hand at the end I shouldn't say that, but it gave me cash in hand at the end of the week, and it helped me realise, if I want to make money, I've got to do something for it. So in hindsight, it was a really great experience.
Yeah, definitely.
But at the time I didn't enjoy doing it. So did you go to college? So you had a gap and then you went to college?
No. So my mum owned a pub.
Okay.
I then spent quite a few years working there.
Yeah.
Probably we grew up in the pub, but from about 18 to, I must have been 21.
Okay, yeah.
Just running the bar.
What was that like? I bet that was an amazing experience.
At that age, best job in the world.
Yeah.
You knew everyone there. It was like one big family, one big community.
Yeah.
And it was just a laugh.
Yeah. Does the pub still exist? What pub was it, if you want to give it a shout?
It's the Carpenter's Arms in Rawworth.
Okay.
Yeah, so it still exists, but my mum left when I was 21, which forced me into finding other work.
Yeah, got you.
It's been a while out, but good fun.
Were you kind of, as you say, running the bar, so front of house, you've got to be affable, like if you're an arsehole pub landlord, what, I don't even know. Is it landlord? Is it what we're called in? It's not.
Yeah. So my mum was a landlady.
Okay, right, got you. So if you're there and you're running it, you've got to be the face of it, haven't you, as well, to a big degree. So did that teach you a lot of the skills that you then went on to maybe leverage or use in what you're doing now, or?
It gave me the confidence more to speak to people, because I was quite shy growing up.
Okay.
But just having to be out there and being forced to speak to people.
Yeah. All types of people as well.
All types of people, yeah.
And drunk people.
Yeah.
A lot of drunk people.
A lot of drunk people.
Yeah.
And that gives me the ability to just go and talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So something to take from it.
I mean, it's super handy as well, working for yourself and having to drum up. We'll go on to talk about what you're doing now, but especially in early days where you are having to find work and having the confidence to go up and start a conversation and that could lead to a potential way of making money. That all the kind of roots and the early part of that was sown then, it sounds like.
I think
what an experience. I think that sounds great.
That was excellent. It was great. It was.
Were you disappointed when that stopped and you were kind of forced to look at something else?
Yes.
Okay.
At the time, it was gutting because we had a good crowd. We're all friends there. We're all work. It didn't even feel like work. It felt more like we were just playing.
That's interesting because at that age, at 21, I think there's a pressure again societally for people to work out and not completely work out what they want to do forever, but maybe get that first step on a career ladder. Were you being put under pressure to do that at that time, or were you aware of that being a pressure?
There was a small pressure, but it wasn't intense for me.
Yeah.
Because I was quite enjoying that, and maybe if we'd stayed there, I would have maybe gone down that path in hospitality, because I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
But not so much pressure, not for me anyway.
Yeah. Do you remember any kind of formal career guidance that you got at the time? So your dad had said about going down the electrician.
He'd given up on me by this point.
You say that, and I'm just going to explore that a little bit more because you brought it up. But what does that look like when? And I mean this from like my mum, who is the most positive person in the world, would try and come up with all these weird and wonderful things that I could do for a living, and I wasn't listening to it at that point. And I could say she gave up at me at points, which was like, everything I'm suggesting you don't want to do. But what did that look like in reality? Did your dad just stop suggesting things you should be doing? Did he stop saying to you, come out with me as well?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He was always there to give me a bit of advice here and there, but I think he was quite bummed out really that I wasn't as focused as I should have been, I suppose.
Got you, okay. So at the age of 21 though, you stop. The hospitality is now not a route that you're going to explore, and you get a job in a steel yard.
Steel yard.
How does that come about?
One of the regulars in the pub obviously knew that we were selling.
Right.
So he comes up and says, if you need any labouring, if you want to do any labouring, come down the road.
Okay.
And that was that. I started about a week later, turned up, and I was there all in 9 years nearly.
Wow. Okay. And this is completely new world to you.
Completely
never
new world.
having done anything like this before.
No, big greasy steel yard.
I'm imagining there's not a job description when you first start. No, there's no CV submission process.
Absolutely not. Turn up at 8 o'clock. As long as you're there, you're all right.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Okay. And did it click quite early on that doing something very practical, being very hands-on, because as you say, that academic style of learning wasn't something you wanted to do. I'm imagining immersing yourself into that world's very different. It's like the same as me going into a scaffold yard. There's not much academic stuff going on. You are lugging stuff and picking stuff up and moving bits around. So is that what happened to you? You were just in? Yeah,
and because we were obviously the young ones in the yard. To be fair, the older guys there took us under their wings.
Yeah.
So taught us everything we needed to know.
Yeah.
And it was, to be fair, constant learning, but it was on the job. You'd do something, and when you were shown a mistake, you were told how to fix it there and then. Okay.
And I guess I would imagine in a similar way to scaffolding, you get exposed and introduced to people from all walks of life. And, let's say you've got your stereotypical people that work in a corporate London office, and then you've got your weird and wonderful menagerie of people that work in worlds that I've had experience working with. And I cite my time scaffolding as one of the most transformative times of my life, because I did it labouring and then I went back to do it for a couple of years in my mid-20s. And I met some incredibly unique, I'm going to call them unique people.
Unique's a good word, yeah.
But they're people that I still call friends to this day, but I would never have met them if I hadn't got into that line of work. So I thank my stepdad for introducing me to that. But was that the same kind of thing for you?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I still speak to a lot of the people that were there when I first started, and they've gone all in their separate directions from the company we all worked for.
Yeah.
But we still all stay in touch. There was a core group of people that become such good friends. We were there every day, sorting problems out and doing what we had to do. And I guess, we've just stayed in touch ever since.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And we still call each other and moan down the phone about our parent jobs.
There's something about being in the kind of trenches together in jobs like that, though, that really kind of form a bond.
Yeah.
And I don't think that happens in all work environments that people are in.
Maybe not, no. No. I mean, I've been in some chaotic work environments before, but that was a good one to be in,
Yeah, nice. Okay. So with the pre-interview questionnaire I get people to fill out before they come on, you talked about you always, and you said it a few minutes ago, that you always knew you wanted to do something creative. So you're in a steel yard, which I personally, from maybe it's ignorance, I don't associate with being the most creative of industries to go into.
No.
So how do you, at that point, did you start to notice an opportunity to make it a more creative endeavour? Did that start to become apparent to you at that time?
Yeah, so we sort of specialised in two kinds of work. So your normal structural steel beams, which didn't love too much heavy lugging about.
Right.
And all your work gets covered up, gets unseen.
So are we talking like RSJ type
RSJs
things?
and stuff, yeah. But when it came to decorative gates and railings, staircases, even though they don't sound that exciting, when you've got the finished product and it's up and you can see customers are happy and they've got something nice to look at the end, that's definitely what I enjoyed more.
Right.
And that's probably kind of what pushed me on down the road of what steelwork I wanted to do.
Yeah. Did you have an idea when you thought you knew you wanted to do something creative of what that medium was going to be? If you take yourself back to school age Luke, were you doing anything else creative at that time as an outlet?
Drawing.
Right.
Just lots of drawing. Yep. I enjoyed graphic design. It was just things like that, yeah. Right,
okay. So you never really could imagine that getting into the path that you are now was going to manifest itself?
No, it was... fell into it, really. It's probably the right word.
Yeah.
Do you know what the funny thing is? I always enjoyed interior design.
Okay.
This is going to sound funny, but even as a kid, I loved to move my room around.
Yeah.
Love redecorating.
Yeah.
The old TV shows like Changing Rooms.
It's a banger.
Used to watch them as a kid, like rather than cartoons. Don't know why.
Really, yeah.
But I enjoyed them. So it kind of... Maybe that was the early sign.
It sounds like it. I think it lends itself, obviously, to, and we'll talk a bit more about the things that you actually create now, but it lends itself to what you moved on to actually start creating. How good was Changing Rooms? I had a thing for Carol Smiley. And I mean, that's an admission, and you're not saying anything out loud, so I'm embarrassed now. But it's Carol Smiley was, I don't know why. This isn't a podcast about Carol Smiley. Sorry, Luke. Changing Rooms was a banger.
Excellent.
So yeah, I think going back to that, I just wanted to know if you knew you wanted to do something creative, that spark must have come up earlier in life. But yeah, knowing that you were going to go and do something with metal and then the other mediums that you work in now probably was never on your radar at the time.
No.
Yeah.
No, it was quite organic, to be fair. And you kind of sit there now and I wonder how the hell I fell into it. So
what was the first thing? So you mentioned then the decorative stuff that you were doing, so staircases and gates. And again, it feels, I'm looking out now at some of the decorative steelwork outside the hatch. And I think maybe since I've met you, that is decorative, yeah? There's some stuff out there.
Yep.
Don't know, I won't ask you to rate it because Ralph owns it and gives us a space for free. But it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful, yeah. But in my mind, I don't think I ever really paid attention until I met you. I have to be honest. Like I just, and that's what part of what I want from this podcast is for people to be mindful about what you create, because I think there's so much of it that just is in your eye line all the time. But you don't digest it. You're just going in like it's white noise.
Yeah.
But actually take a second, and there's some really beautiful details in what you're doing.
Definitely.
That's what I've experienced since following your feed and all of this stuff. So that's what I wanted to give an opportunity to talk about. When did you really let your creativity shine doing what you do?
When me and my wife bought our first house.
Okay. How long ago was that now?
11 or 12 years ago now.
So before you went off on your own?
Before I went off on my own, yeah.
Okay.
That started just by me making some furniture for the house. So this is when the whole scaffold board furniture became a thing.
Oh, I remember you mentioned this.
When it really became a thing.
Okay.
You
can say Nick.
Borrowed some scaffold boards from a site. And then you made some metal legs for it.
Right.
And then that turned into me making a dining table and then a couple of decorative pieces for the house, just on my lunch breaks and after work.
Right.
From there, friends liked them, made some for friends, and it kind of, the way we say it just spiraled from there, to be fair.
Right, okay.
We had no plan, it just went that way.
And did you know at the time when you were making these pieces that giving you a bit of job satisfaction, a bit of fulfillment?
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
The process of creating and then seeing what you created at the end, and then seeing the people's faces, as you mentioned earlier, when you're actually giving them the product.
Definitely, especially when you're making some like interior furniture. Whereas, you can make some nice railings, like you say, there might be something nice outside. Not a lot of people are going to notice it.
True, yeah.
They're just railings. Whereas if you make someone a nice dining table individual piece of furniture, it's something they enjoy sitting around, being around, and everyone notices it.
Yeah, the function's a bit more obvious with a dining room table or a coffee table than it is railings. Railings have a function, but it's not as in your face and everyday, as accessible, all these things. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. Because again, there is a function to that, but there's something about being in your home with something that you're sitting around, and maybe that feeling
table and stuff. It can give the room presence, you know.
Yeah, and it's the heart of a home a lot of the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of romanticises what some people just see as a table or just see as a coffee table.
Yeah. I see that in furniture a lot. So
yeah,
kind of.
No, that's for someone that's listening to you talk about it, though, it's really lovely. Did you take inspiration from anyone? Other than Carol Smiley on Changing Rooms, but did you take inspiration from anyone else that was creating with steel or metal around that time? Because I was doing a bit of research, and there are some big channels on YouTube of people that make some incredibly artistic pieces. Yeah. But were you digesting any of that, or were you just going off your own?
Do you know what? Beforehand, there's a lot now on YouTube.
We're talking over a decade ago, I guess, aren't we now? Which is a different thing.
Yeah, it must. Yeah, so it must have been when I started, and there wasn't loads, but there were definitely a few makers that really caught your eye and inspired you. You know, you always thought, if one day if I can be that good, then that's the place to be.
But not anyone specific that you were kind of following at the time,
no,
or that
I
you
think
could remember.
One of the first people, maybe it was an American guy called Greg Klassen.
Okay.
Who made probably one of the first. You probably heard of river tables.
Yes. Yeah.
So he made not the resin ones, but the glass inlaid ones.
Right. Got you.
Where it just felt like he turned a table into a piece of art rather than a table itself. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was high-end people like that really caught my eye.
Yeah. Brilliant. And did you producer Tom is one of these people as well that will go to YouTube. Basically, no challenge is too big for Tom. That's okay, because he'll go to YouTube and work out how to do it. Are you one of these people too? So
yes,
we'll go on to School of YouTube.
The best school.
Yeah,
I think when I started doing like woodwork or joinery work, I didn't have anyone to learn off because I was doing it on my own in my workshop, and it was YouTube and just making mistakes. That's how I learned it.
That sounds so similar to... And I'm sorry, I've got to address Rob, who you can't see at the moment because he's sat behind that big black screen. But I'm sure Rob, and Rob shares... he's on a journey at the moment to convert a camper van, which you can speak to him about after. But I just don't want to do Rob a disservice. So sorry, Rob. If I'm sure you go on YouTube and do everything yourself as well. But I just think it's great to have seen how accessible knowledge and information can be now. I am not a practical person, and my thing is to outsource it to someone else, and maybe that's ignorance and laziness a lot of the time. But
it's having the time.
It's time, but it's also the inclination, and I love speaking to people that have just taken it into their own hands and thought, if I don't need to pay someone else, I can do this. So, and it's great that
it's the process of enjoying doing it, I think.
Yes,
I still do it now. If I've got the time to make something that I've not made before, if I've got a spare hour here and there, I'll give something a go.
Right.
If it doesn't work out,
so
goes in the bin.
So fear of failure for you doesn't seem to be a thing, or fear of making mistakes doesn't seem to be a thing.
No. I've made enough. You kind of get used to it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, you still have that small emotional breakdown when you make the mistake.
Yeah. But it's a learning moment for you rather than...
You know next time what not to do.
Yeah. So I'd love that mindset. For me, I go into a spiral. I make a mistake and I'm like, no, that's done. I'll probably park that now. But yeah, I think there has to be people like yourself in the world that think, okay, yeah, I've done that and I'm just going to refine it and make it better the next time around.
That's it.
Yeah, brilliant.
And always order more material than what you need.
Okay, that's good advice for anyone wanting to do that. I was going to ask how important creativity is with the work that you do, because I know when you transitioned out of working for the company you were working for and then started working for yourself, which we'll talk about in a bit more detail. But I guess making ends meet and starting to build a client base and getting the work in means that you have to say yes to stuff that maybe isn't ticking that creative box. Yeah. How did the transition happen? Maybe you've covered it already. It was making that furniture.
Yeah, so I'd done, you know what, once I thought I could do something with it, and I, making a few bits for friends and done the Instagram, got work off Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to think straight away, I've got something here. So it must have been about a year I'd done of working evenings and weekends on private jobs while making sure the mortgage was paid.
Yeah.
And then it come to a point where I was so busy and almost burnt out. I actually went to work one day for a company I was working for. Had an argument with the boss. Told him to stick his job. And I remember driving home thinking, what have I done?
Right.
Got home, sat down, called my wife and said, I've quit. She wasn't happy about that. But I said, it'll be all right. I'll make it work somehow. And that was that.
Wow.
Yeah. And I guess...
And shut.
Do you know there's that episode of The Friends where they're talking about having the fear? It was that situation. And I think when you think, okay, now I need to make the money. You know, I was just trying to get my own jobs before because I knew that my day job would pay for it. Whereas when you need to make the money, you're kind of forced to put yourself out there.
Well, what's the alternative? If you can't make the money,
lose your house.
Yeah, lose your house.
Yeah.
There's a load of risk. There's loads of responsibility that you take on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fight or flight, isn't it? You've got to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky the fact that I stayed in contact with the original steel company and stuff I worked for. So there was always that. I'll give it a month. If it goes wrong, if it doesn't, or if I don't make enough money, and I can go and grab some more work. So there was a plan B. There was always something to fall back on.
There is something to be said for not burning bridges and keeping relationships strong. And I think a lot of people, probably more than they even know, have a fallback or a plan B option available to them. But that stops so many people making the leap. But I love your story of transitioning out of, telling your job to basically, telling your boss to do one. And then that
I don't talk to that guy anymore.
I can imagine. I can imagine. But that I think is a real... Do you know how many people listen to this podcast and will hear you say that and go, oh, I would love to do that. I would love to go in and just go, fuck you, I'm going to go off and start.
And that's literally how it was as well.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, maybe just caught me because I was tired. And I always think if I didn't say that, if I just bit my tongue, would I have done it? Would I have started properly? Would I have taken it seriously?
I talk about sliding door moments on the podcast. You know, again, your life goes off on one other avenue, one other route that takes you wherever. But you never would have done what you do now, potentially.
No,
it could have looked completely different.
Really comfortable just staying there, and the work wasn't too bad. So I could have quite comfortably stayed there, earned money, carried on doing what I'm doing without the stress of running a business.
But there's a reason that you were close to burnout, even when you were working for someone else. There's a reason that you were maybe more irritable than you would have been any other day in that environment. So I love that. I want more stories where people go fuck off to their boss and start. But talking about the transition of then going, now I need to make money. There's nothing that drives someone than knowing that I now need to do it to pay the bills.
You've got no choice. So you will put yourself out there. You will go and speak to people and have them conversations and introduce yourself to other companies. Yeah,
which is where all the skills that you picked up, being front of house in a bar or behind a bar and speaking to all these different people, would have come in complete handy with what you're doing. How supportive was your partner at the time, and how important was that? Because you've called her and said, I've quit my job. And
she wasn't happy.
Right.
Not at the time.
And how quickly did that come round into be? Has it? How many years you've been doing this now?
No, she's always supported me, to be fair. Yeah. Even, I mean, I told her that time she come home, and I'm still sitting there after having quit my job. Yeah. She said, if you think it can work, give it a go.
Yeah, that belief.
You know, like I say, worst case, you'll have to go down the road and speak to your pal for a job.
Yeah.
And ever since then, she's always been the same.
Yeah.
Even, we've had quiet times where there's not always been as much work as you've wanted.
Yes.
And you can sit there and you can say, maybe I should just go back and work for someone else and not have the stress, not have the money worries. But she's always been like, no, you'll be right. You'll do it.
I think it's so important. It's so important. The way I left my job wasn't quite a fuck you moment, but it was pretty close. I was approaching burnout. I was definitely depressed. And it got to a point I didn't have any other decision. I could only hand my notice in and get out of there. But I remember I would never have had the confidence at that time for me to go off and do something and set up my recruitment agency if my other half hadn't said, I believe in you, or at least I support you, or at least she didn't say you're doing the wrong thing. You know, she did so much more than that in reality, but someone just to say, yeah, let's give this a try.
Yeah, I think it needs to be reaffirmed a bit, didn't you? Just so you know that you're not,
bit of validation.
You're not mad, or you're not caught up in a moment of just doing something you shouldn't do, really.
Yeah.
It's the validation that makes it easier.
I think so for sure.
And I think if she hadn't been as supportive as she is, the few wobbles that I've had, I probably, if it was just down to me, I probably would have just gone and worked for someone else.
Yeah. Hey, so, obviously, your other half has a name. What's her name?
Emma.
Right, we'll give Emma a shout out. Sorry, Emma, I'll keep calling you the other half. So Emma is a big reason, big supporter in your life, which is fantastic. But self-doubt is still a thing. So in those moments where you sat there and work's a bit quieter, which we've all had if you're working for yourself, and you're thinking, can I keep doing this? Is this the year it all goes to shit? And your other half says, no, you keep going. But you still get your own self-doubt. So how do you overcome that? Have you got tools that you've learnt along the way, or do you just push it down, stick it in a bottle and carry on?
Just keep going.
Stick a cork on it.
Yeah, just keep going. Just pretend it's not happening and everything's all good. I don't know. Just try and get more ideas. Think of ways to get out of it. That's probably it, to be honest. Like, I can't really say. There's been so many times where I've been close. There's been times where it's quiet, or on the other hand, when it's too busy, and it's only me. There's too much to do, and you feel like you can't juggle everything.
Yeah. Which is the better problem to have, isn't it?
Absolutely, because at least
trying to spin too many plates.
Yeah, but you have moments where you sit there and think, do you know what? 9 to 5 sounds quite nice.
Really, yeah.
But I like to think now you've come too far to turn back now.
Exactly. It's
I feel like if you gave up now, 7 or 8 years of it's been wasted.
So think of everything you've achieved over that time. I think just to be able to say that I have built something that sustains me, my family.
Yeah, and that's all I wanted to do.
Your daughter, all of these things. You're paying for a mortgage, and you're building a business, or you're building something that has people coming to you for you alone, for what you're creating. I think that's a thing to be incredibly proud of, and definitely not something to turn you back on. But again, I appreciate self-doubt creeps in. I've had moments where I've entertained going to work with someone, and then I think I get a little bit take a couple of steps down that path and realise very quickly and remember very quickly why I would never, if I can, I would never do that.
Yeah, do you know what? It was a couple of years ago, I almost forced myself into it. Well, I did force myself into it. I thought I felt just, my mind was blank. I didn't have any enthusiasm to go into work.
Yeah.
I felt like I'd just lost a bit of passion for a while. So I actually went and worked for someone else, just, subcontracted for someone else for a couple of months. And doing that taught me, actually, you do belong in that workshop.
Okay.
Yeah. I would rather be stressed working for myself than not so stressed working for someone else. I can't describe it.
It's accountability. When everything falls on you and it's your own stress, it's a different type of stress than when you are being managed or led or driven by someone else, when all the shit rolls down the hill, basically.
That's it.
When it's your stress, you've built it. And it's a different relationship that you have with the stress.
And you can do something with it, I think.
You can. And also you can say no to it. You've got more control a lot of the time than people actually give themselves credit for. You can start saying no. You can start pushing back or setting expectations because it's your baby. You've birthed this into the world. Stress is part and parcel of working for yourself. I don't think you can get away with it. I don't think you can get away from it. But it being your stress is very different.
Easier to manage, I think.
I think so.
With your own business, I guess you've got a bit more flexibility to manage the stress.
Yeah.
As opposed to going to have to deal with a boss shouting at you all day.
Yeah, which is basically their agenda that's being pushed pushed on you.
Yeah.
And this podcast, I have to say, is not just banging the drum for everyone to go and work for themselves. The general message.
It's not a good idea.
No, it's awful. We're not painting it in a good light. But I think the general message is you can change something about your relationship with work. That's what we're about. But so many of the people that come on, the thing that they changed was becoming their own boss and having autonomy and having the ultimate responsibility. Everyone that works behind the scenes on the podcast works for themselves. So there is that DNA really running through the conversations that we have.
It's like I think it's taken me God knows how many years to get it straight, but this year, or over the last 12 months even, it's probably the first time I've started saying no to stuff that I don't want to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Job-wise, I used to say yes to everything, and then I'd go, why have I said yes? I hate doing this particular job.
Yeah. Why did you say yes? Did you come to a conclusion on that?
Knowing the comfort that I had money coming in,
right, and
also just trying to be polite, just trying to not upset anyone.
Not wanting to say no.
Not wanting to say no. And then say I'd be on like a job for 4 weeks and I'd be saying to myself every day, why have you said yes to this? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, the inner voice kicks in,
Yeah. So it's been the last 12 months that being able to say no is my favourite thing of not being stressed.
There is so we spoke about this because for anyone listening to this, and if you're watching it on YouTube, we'll make sure that the A-frame that we've created gets some viewing. But Luke, we've got to thank for creating the A-frame outside, which is fantastic. But I think we spoke when I came to pick it up the other day, and we were talking about the fact that you've now reached this point where you can say no to things, and maybe the focus now, the filter you're using is more on the creative projects that are coming through.
Yes.
That takes a hell of a lot of hard work. It's not luck that gets you there. It's doing the graft and doing the shit that you don't want to be doing that gets you closer to what you want to do. So that's a lesson for anyone listening to this, that you have to wade through some shit.
It's exactly that,
to get out the other side of it. There's no shortcuts to that. So it's great to hear that you're finally there.
Hopefully.
Well, even if
long way to continue.
Even if it's for a couple of months, you can afford to say no, and then there's ebbs and flows. It's running a business, isn't it? It's tough.
Yeah, we got that balance. If you have a job you don't want to do, you can price it accordingly.
Well, there you go. Exactly. And which, again, not enough people talk about that. You can make it worth your while, can't you?
It's got to be worth your while.
We are proud to be supported by friends of the show and previous guests, the local merchants. They stock some of the finest ready-to-wear brands in the world and now offer a made-to-measure service that, speaking from personal experience, will leave you feeling like a proper celebrity. Sam and Ed are known for phenomenal customer service, and they're now crafting tailored pieces so good you'll start inventing reasons to wear them. Book your appointment online or in store, and their beautifully designed space becomes your private dressing room, somewhere you can collaborate with the best in the business to create something for any occasion. Their knowledge of tailoring, materials, and how a suit should actually look and feel is second to none. First piece or something special, you'll be in expert hands. The customization options next level. Cut, lining, lapels, buttons, buttonholes, vents. What even are vents? The whole experience, first class. And for a limited time, JobsWorth listeners get 10% off purchases over £200 in-store or online with the code JW10, including made to measure. So if your wardrobe's due an upgrade, now's the time. Visit thelocalmerchants.co.uk for more information. T's and C's apply. You mentioned on the pre-interview questionnaire as well a bit of a rebrand at the moment, and you spoke to me again that you're called Essex Metalworx.
So we started off as Essex Metalworx, as I suppose that was really what I was trained in properly.
Yep.
And it slowly evolved into, I'd say metalwork now is maybe 30%, maybe 40%.
So the name doesn't necessarily align with what you're doing.
No, and it doesn't align with where I want to go.
Okay.
So rebranded really slowly. It's been so slow because I've been too scared to lose the name. If you take away the name that we kind of become a little bit known for.
It's synonymous with you, isn't it? The name,
I was like, well, what if I change my name straight away? People won't know who I am. Or they'll forget. They won't be able to find me. Yeah. So it's been really slow, but it's Black Cat for anyone that cares.
Black Cat.
My logo was always a black cat face. Yeah. So it just kind of seemed like a logical thing at the time.
Just evolved from there.
Just Black Cat.
I think you're tapping into something, again, a lot of people will be terrified of doing, which is they've built a following, they've built a brand, they've built a client base, and then changing that. So much of your identity becomes wrapped up in it.
In your name, yeah.
If it doesn't serve you anymore, you have to change it. But it's been interesting. When you say it happens slowly, what is the drip feed that happens? Because you obviously... there's what you can register your company as anything, can't you, and trade as whatever you want. But are we talking about you drip feed it into social media? Some of the posts that you're talking about,
social media. I'll always keep my Essex Metalworx name as the official trading name. Social media wise is where we're seeing the most.
Right.
So it made sense to change it there, just slowly. I guess where I started doing more and more work in other fields, people didn't really know that we did it. So they'd see me make a dining table or any item of furniture, and they'd say, "Who done the top?" or "Who done the woodwork?"
Yeah.
And I'd say, "Well, it's me."
Yeah.
"Oh, we thought you only did this bit." So it made sense to start doing that.
Yeah.
And it's just out of fear of doing it too quickly.
Yeah.
That it's taken ages.
So in preparing for this podcast, I can usually put people under a particular label about what it is they do, and I struggle so much with you, in the best possible way, because I'm thinking there is so much that you do, but I do describe you as a creative. But so everything that I was writing these questions last night and looking at your various Instagram feeds and. There's not much else to go on for you other than that, to be honest with you. So I'm trying to do this and then base it on your pre-interview questionnaire as well. And creative is the label. But under Black Cat, there are all these weird and wonderful things that you do. So how do you describe what it is you do?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know. If someone gives me an idea, I will just try my best to make it work. Whether I haven't even done it before, I'll go and go to the school of YouTube, give it a go. Normally after I've said yes to it.
Yeah. Cool, act as if and all of that.
Yeah, I can do that, that's fine. I don't know.
I don't want to put you on a spot either. Because
I've always wanted to have a brand though, like a proper brand.
Right.
Hence why I just thought, lose the Metalworx tag. Don't put...
It limits you too much, doesn't it?
Just have a word. Just make a word up. Have that word, and maybe in the future, if I find a niche that I'm happy with, I'll settle with that, and I can just keep it under that. But if not,
because there's nothing that says it has to be set in stone.
No,
and that again stops people starting their own thing, because they put so much pressure on themselves to get the logo, get the name, all of these things locked in. Yeah, but you can evolve.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. But I think maybe there is that certain pressure there, because people think they've got to build a face of a company before they try to do what they need to do to make the company work.
It's like this the whole "don't run before you can walk" thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I think, again, you reached out to me, I believe, first off, from listening to the podcast. We might have had some mutual people come on, and you'd messaged me, and then all of a sudden I saw you create some stuff for one of our other guests, George, who runs Roll Boys as well. And then I just saw you pop up on a load of Instagram feeds being tagged in signage all around Lee and all of these really creative projects that you're working on.
Yeah.
Then I started following your personal account and saw that you did camper van conversions, and I was just like, you're creative that does a lot of cool shit. There you go.
Thanks. I'll take that.
that will be the description, for this. But yeah, I think to build the brand you have, maybe the brand is you are someone that can do these creative things. You just need to have a conversation and convert that idea into something that's real and tangible and sits in front of you. What a fucking cool thing. I love that. I think that's brilliant.
And if that's the way it's going to work, then I'm happy with that.
That's the best way to do it. I would imagine. How do you market someone like you? And I think actually having a name, a brand, is the best way of doing it, because you're not limited by the medium. Don't find yourself
to one trade or industry. Yeah.
So I think it's great. I'm pleased that I get to track this evolution of the thing that you're developing now.
And I'm going to finally drop it this week. Drop the Essex Metalworx. It's going to just go straight to Black Cat.
I think you should just rip the plaster off and do it for sure. And I think it's nice to get a bit more insight into why you're doing that. And I looked at some of the furniture you've created, and it's art. It is real art.
You.
So you've got a handle on Instagram, although you're teasing everyone with no posts yet. So this is Black Cat Studio.
Yep.
This is going to be where you showcase your more kind of artistic endeavours. Is that fair to say?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay. So where are the posts? Where's this?
Oh man, do you know what? I've put posts up and then deleted it, and then put posts up and then deleted them.
Why is that?
Do you know what? Originally that was going to actually start being just primarily as a camper van conversion side of things, because I thought that might be a route that I'd go down.
Okay.
But after the whole lockdown, the market got flooded, and we done
quite a lot of demand, right?
So much demand, yeah. And it was good at the time. I got a few done, but then a lot of other companies sprung up, and I mean, like guys just working out of their sheds at home,
right?
And you just couldn't compete price wise unless you were doing a properly bespoke build,
right?
There'd be no point. You wouldn't earn any money from it when you've got overheads to pay. So I was like, right, let's just put a pin in the camper van thing, leave that. But I've always, I mean, I've got a little book at home that's full of sketches or designs of things that I want to make.
Wow, okay.
So I've always wanted to, I guess the dream would be to be able to make something that no one's ordered, I've designed it, no one's ordered it.
Just for the joy of it.
Make it and then sell it. And I've done it a few times, to be fair, but it's hard to sell them. I don't know. It would just.
Do you need to sell them? Is there something to be said for just creating?
My house is so full of stuff. So I need to make some space.
It's more about not keeping it in the house. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there's something to be said for the process of creating, which obviously you enjoy.
Yeah, and it doesn't. Do you know what? I always used to kind of try and focus on bits of furniture, whereas I'm going to try a few other things that I will be sort of. Well, I am actually cracking on with now. I've just not finished them and put pictures up. But there will be some stuff coming up on there soon. But it will literally be one-off thing. Yeah. Not made to order. If you like it, you can buy it. Yeah. And that's it. Then it's gone.
Well, there you go. And that's tapping into what you said earlier. You wanted to do something creative. And that is creativity at its finest, isn't it? It's not commission-driven, which is still a creative thing. But to do something from you, the genesis of the idea is from you, and then breathe it into the world, and then someone have a value in it. There's value that you'll put to it, but art is priceless. It's literally beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like my mum and brother are artists, they sell their work, and it might be worth tenner to someone that doesn't care about it and thousands to someone that does.
Exactly,
I think that's a great. It's obviously, it feels like something you wanted to do from a very young age, and now you're close to doing it. Like 20 years on.
I think even when I started, the dream was to have a space like this full of furniture or whatever that I've made, and the people would come in and browse it and talk about it and see it would be like incredible. Well,
the history of this place, this was an old foundry, so they were literally pouring molten metals and stuff, and that's incredible. But I think good for you. I like I said earlier, I would love to see this evolution for you, and I'm all about trying to champion people that want to start creating their own stuff, and that's purely because I'm frustrated creative and see my mum and brother create these amazing things, and I think it's fantastic, mate. So I can't wait to see that grid start filling up with the stuff that you're creating. I think it's brilliant. Maybe I know the answer to this already, but I'm going to ask it. But what's the part of the job that you love the most?
The design part's probably my favourite. Do you know what I like? I like going to meet a customer first of all, and just throwing ideas around, putting pen to paper, doing some drawings, and then making it as well. It's
the whole thing.
My worst part is dropping it off. Delivering the furniture is when my kind of anxiety goes through the roof, because I'm thinking the whole way there, is it going to be good enough?
Right.
Are they going to like it? They're probably not going to like it.
So there's that.
So that's the worst part.
It's not imposter syndrome. It's self-doubt again. It's a little bit of anxiety that's born from, I like it. But do you feel like, would your work be as good as if you didn't have that? If you were someone that, let's say...
I think so.
Yeah, there's an element of arrogance there to think, whoever's got this, whoever's commissioned it is going to love it. You need that fear. to drive you.
Definitely, and I think that's because you can spend so much time looking at one piece of work that if you can see every single imperfection in it, or you find the tiniest piece where you think could have done a bit better there, you're gonna have that self-doubt in the end. My solution is generally to either get my mum or my wife to come down, get Emma to come down and have a look. And I'll say, do your worst, and I'll walk off and let them have 5-10 minutes walking around it.
That is, I don't know if I could survive that. How are you at taking notes? Are you pretty good with the feedback, or are they pretty kind with the feedback?
My mum is.
Okay.
Emma,
no holds barred.
No.
She's in. Yeah, got you.
But you need that.
Yeah.
But generally, if she can't spot something that I maybe know could have been better,
it's a pass.
It's a pass. Like, I know for sure that it's just me. It's in my head. I'm fine.
Like you say, I think maybe if Emma was someone that was just... You get stuck in a bit of an echo chamber, don't you? It's like, I think that's good. And then Emma goes, yeah, I think that's good. And then you'd stop asking her. So the fact that she does have maybe a bit more of a critical eye and isn't afraid, and that's probably the strength of your relationship as well, isn't afraid to say, maybe you could change it. Or maybe that's not... I know you could do better.
Yeah, but I'd rather hear that from her as well than...
Well, it shows that you respect it.
Dropping it off and then going...
Yeah. Do you think that'll ever go?
I hope not.
I think that's a great answer.
I hope not.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant answer. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question now about becoming a dad. Because working for yourself... So how old's your daughter?
She's 4.5 now.
4.5. So you were working for yourself when you had your daughter.
Yep.
How has becoming a dad changed your relationship with work?
I definitely don't go to work as much.
Okay.
As in...
By design? That's your conscious choice?
Do you know what? I used to work... I'd work 7 days a week, but not... Even if I wasn't really busy, I'd just go in. Because I can go into the workshop, put some music on or put some TV on in the background, and I'd just be busy. And I'm happy being busy.
Yeah.
And it just became habit. Wasn't stressed, just liked going into work. Just enjoyed it. When Evelyn come along, I started having Sundays off. And it was always, to be fair, even now, I finish at about 2 o'clock on a Saturday. Then it's family time through until Monday morning. Also, I do quite a lot of, or at least half of the pickups and drop-offs at school and stuff.
Right.
Which I like to do.
Yeah.
I think it's like important because dads aren't often around to do that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I know
true.
my dad was always busy, working long hours. I know lots of other people's parents are like that as well.
Yeah.
So I just guess I enjoy going and seeing her face when I pick her up.
Look, speaking from experience, I've got 2 kids. I'm exactly the same. I think regardless of what industry you operate in, whether it's 9 to 5 office life or working for yourself in more practical roles, the pandemic changed a lot of that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So if you ask me, pre-pandemic, going to do the nursery run, I worked for myself at that time, 6 months. I set up the business, but was doing the drop-offs. The amount of men or dads I saw dropping off their kids, minimal. Like it was, you stuck out like a sore thumb dropping your kids off. Post-pandemic, I just saw a huge change because ways of working have changed. So I do think we're at the kind of precipice of it shifting. But historically, you're completely right. Men or dads weren't the ones doing that for a lot of the time. And it definitely wasn't my experience growing up. I was raised by my mum on her own. So you could argue there wasn't much way around that. But definitely, I was seeing my mates' mums drop them off, pick them up. So I think it's an amazing thing that... Again, working for yourself affords you that autonomy
it does,
to be able to do it.
But there's also that, I don't know if you have it sometimes, you have this guilt of, I always have guilt of not being there enough if I'm busy at work, but then if I'm not busy at work, I have guilt of not being at work when I could be.
I completely understand.
It's like a two-way thing. I feel like there's no, and I've tried now for 4 years to find a happy medium.
Yeah, there isn't one.
I don't know if there is, no.
In my experience, there isn't one. I speak to my brother. He's now got 2 kids. There isn't one. I think when you have a drive that you want to work for yourself and you want to provide for your family, finding that real nice balance is, well, if anyone's listening to this and has achieved it, then get in touch. Yeah, I'd pay you some money to do a course on it. It's so hard. Yeah, guilt, parent guilt, and then you've got work guilt. The work guilt is driven by the fact that you need to provide.
Yeah.
In most cases, or some cases. So for me, I need to provide for my family, and that's what drives me to want to work. And then when I'm there, as you say, I'm sat there going, I haven't done bedtime tonight. Maybe I've missed school drop off because I had to go to this meeting, and that makes you guilty. So where is the spot where you don't feel guilt on either side? Ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Transitions and phases in and out.
But you know what I think? I mean, I guess my main goal is when everything's grown up, that I can turn around and say, or she'll know that, say Dad was always there.
Yeah.
Like, I spent a lot of time with my dad when I was a kid. If she says that, then I think, regardless, I've won, right?
Yeah,
it's a win, isn't it?
Yeah. That leads me then to asking a question. What does success look like for you? What's your definition of success?
God, I wish I was driven by money more.
Do you though?
I'm not mad driven by money.
No.
I'm not madly driven by money.
It'd be nice to have more, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, give me as much money as you got. But
yeah.
At the same time, I think it's something my dad said to me. He waited till he was like 45. He left his job in the city, gave it all up, went back to college full time to learn to be done plumbing and electrics and stuff like that. And he said to me, don't wait till you're 45 like me to find a job that you want to do.
Right.
Do it sooner. So it was kind of, do you know what? I've got to find a job that's going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And I think I've done that.
It's a great lesson to have learned so young.
From someone else, yeah.
Brilliant experience for your dad to have, I mean, he's gone through it, finding out later in life.
Yeah.
And it's great that he's passed that down, because I think the biggest lesson that most people come on here and discuss when I ask them about advice that they have for people that are on the fence is that you have to do it. I feel like I'm just going to record myself saying that, but if there is something in you, a fire burning in you, it's an awful metaphor, but if there's a fire burning in you and it's there for long enough, you have to do something about it, because you will live to regret it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's never as easy as that. It's never as easy as just saying just do it, but in a way it is that easy.
It is. I think number one, whatever you're doing, you're going to be doing for 40 years.
Yeah.
Maybe more. The way it's going. Yeah. Number two, give it a shot. And if it goes wrong, what's the worst that can happen? Right?
We kind of,
like, as long as you're careful.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, have a backup plan. Sure. Like, I always had a backup plan. If something went wrong, then I know I'd just go and work for another company. But I think it's important just to give it a go. Like, just give it a go.
It's easy to regret it. I mean, it could lead to being one of your biggest regrets, and you spend most of your life at work.
You don't want to be 70 years old and saying, do you know what I wish I did instead?
Yeah.
Especially when the opportunities are out there for you as well to do it.
That's it. I think, do you know what? That's what I want for this podcast to do, is get in people's heads and make them think, like, what have I got to lose? Or what happens in 20, 30, 40 years when I look back at my life and haven't at least tried it?
Yeah.
But you're right. Backup plan, contingency plan. I think that...
And you haven't got to go all in at once.
Yeah.
You can...
Transition slowly into it. Yeah.
That's what I did. Yeah, sure. It takes a while, but you get there in the end as long as you want it bad enough.
I think for a lot of people, they'll get to a point where they are telling their boss to fuck off, or they are hitting a line and they're just, I'm done with that. If you can make a change before your mindset gets to that spot, because that's when you're pushed to your limit. That is when you should have made a change. Maybe I'm not talking specifically about your scenario there, but maybe it was. Maybe the signs were there that you needed to make a change well before that happened. If you're at the point where there is no other option. Same for me, no other option but that is breaking point, and actually seeing the signs earlier on allow you some control over that, so you can transition and it maybe not feel like the big leap that it's often described as. So I think that's really powerful. What's your dad's name?
Dave.
Everyone knows a Dave. I feel like we need to shout out Dave, because I think that's a really good message to be passing down to you, that don't wait till you're 45 to find a job you love. I think that's brilliant. I'm going to ask you some advice, if that's okay.
I'll try my best.
Yeah, I'm going to show you a picture. No. So what advice would you give someone who's on the fence about going it alone? I think we've probably just covered it, haven't we, really? Is that, well, you can
make a plan, and just start it. Don't talk about it. Don't just keep going on. Just like make moves and do it. Make sure you're passionate about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it comes a hell of a lot easier if you're passionate about what you're doing. If you're solely motivated by money, in my opinion, anyway, I think it won't come naturally, because you.
And if that money's not there, what is your measure of success?
Yeah.
You're not, the longevity won't be there, because you're not making money. It's very easy to go become disheartened and then bugger off straight away.
Yeah.
You've got no long game at that point. We had Will and Gemma that run Wilmer's. If you don't know it, it's the bakery. Yeah, you know the brand. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so they were a fantastic guest. But Will said exactly the same thing. You have to be passionate, because there are going to be times where the work will beat you up. The money won't be coming in. Yeah. You're going to be working late nights and get no sleep, and you're going to get stressed. And if you're not passionate about it, the first thing you would do is give up. So I think, again,
that's it. They probably nailed it. Slight spot on there.
No, I think it's a worthwhile reminder that you have to be passionate. And again, you've kind of answered this question, but I want to ask it just in case there's another way of framing the answer. What advice do you wish someone had given you? Your dad gave you some great advice.
He did.
But anything else that you feel like now, looking back, if someone had just been in your ear, is there any advice that you wish you'd been given?
Maybe don't be so spontaneous.
Okay. You describe yourself as impulsive, right? Yeah. Okay.
I'm quite good at convincing myself very quickly to do things that probably require more thought.
So that's a bit counter to what we're saying in just do it, but maybe impulsive or doing something spontaneous.
Maybe that's a good thing then, like having that. I think you need
balance.
A bit of you need like a bit of impulsiveness.
Yeah.
I don't really know though. Other advice that I wish someone had given me: learn to do your taxes properly.
Oh, what good advice! That's proper. That's practical.
They don't teach you that at school. They need to teach that at school. That stuff.
I love that.
Admin.
Yeah.
Give me advice on. I'll take all the advice on admin.
Yeah.
I'm terrible at admin. Sending invoices, sending quotes. Anyone that's listening to me on here, who I've worked with, will know, will say exactly the same about me.
But you're right, it's not taught at school, is it?
No.
And it's such an underappreciated aspect of running a business. I make it up. Like, still, nearly 6 years on from running my business, I've only just started to realise I am so ignorant, and I've kind of fluked it up to this point, the back office stuff.
Chuck me in the workshop and I'm happy as Larry all day. Yep. When it comes to having to do the office side of stuff, I hate it. Mainly because I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'll then be calling Emma in saying, can you help me? In which case she probably does most of it. But all that stuff, they don't teach you anything like that at school, do you? So
that's great. I think you smashed that answer, because I think that's probably no one, when I've asked a similar question, no one's ever said accounts and stuff like that.
No one tells you need an accountant.
It's very tangible.
What they do.
Yeah.
What you've got to do.
Exactly. Madness. Right, we're going to play a game, and then we're going to do the closing tradition on the podcast, but we're going to start with a game. So we're bringing back, we haven't done this on YouTube yet, I don't think. We're bringing back an old school game of this and that, this or that.
Yeah.
So 10-ish questions. You've got 2 options, and you have to pick one of those options as quickly as you can with no context.
10 questions, 2 options, okay?
Exactly. So I'm just going to say 2 options, you have to pick one of them, and we'll go like that.
Right.
This should be one of the more simple games we've played, but you just never know how it's going to go. And the last question, I put out an Instagram story today asking our listeners to send in a question, and I can only apologise for the question that was sent in.
Okay.
Right, the first question, metalwork or woodwork?
Woodwork.
2 wheels or 4?
4.
Camper van or tent?
Camper van.
Converting a camper van or renovating your house?
We're converting a camper van.
Okay. Your other half's really going to love you.
And she knows it's true as well.
No, okay, you've got to be honest. Made in the UK or made in the USA?
Made in the UK.
Okay, it's only because I saw on your Instagram feed you got some love for some US-made stuff as
They're
well.
very good. They're really good.
Yeah. Skate or surf?
Surf.
Surf, okay. Form or function?
Form.
Impulse buy or think it through?
Impulse buy.
Foot down or take your time?
Oh, good one. Foot down.
Foot down, okay. Black cat or tabby cat? This is when I asked other people to send in the questions, but please answer.
Okay, I'm going to say tabby cat because I love mine.
Have you got a tabby cat?
Yeah.
Oh, it makes sense. I should have just stayed quiet on that.
Well, I've actually got black cat as well.
Have you really?
I've got two cats, yeah.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it. Now, the last question, someone sent this in. It was a tie between what's your favourite sausage or what would you do if aliens landed on Earth? What would your first reaction be? So I am going to go for the aliens one because I think the sausage is a curveball. But what would your reaction be if aliens landed on Earth? Really put yourself in that position, Luke. I need you to imagine it.
Purely based on movies, I think I'd have to hide.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd jump in my van and drive somewhere quiet into a cave or somewhere they couldn't.
Is there an alien invasion movie that comes to mind when you think of that?
Independence Day.
Independence Day. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of alien movies don't really end well, do they?
I don't think so.
Or Paul. If it was Paul.
Yeah.
Then.
Oh yeah, that's all right. That ended okay.
Then cool. Yeah.
We're putting the positive spin on it.
Let's go and speak to him.
Okay, that's lovely. That was by Mark, sent in by Mark, who was a previous guest, Mark Green, who was a previous JobsWorth guest. The other one was my mate Phil, the sausage one. What is your favourite sausage?
You can't go wrong, Cumberland, can you?
Okay, cool. Right, thank you for that. We're going to go closing tradition on the podcast now. I'm going to play my mum's question down the phone. Let's see what she's asked you.
Hi, Luke. What metal do you like working with most? And what's the favourite thing that you've ever made with it? Thanks.
Interesting. Have you got an answer for that?
I'm going to say mild steel.
Okay.
Because it's what I've worked with for the longest.
Yep.
Annoyingly, I haven't got these pictures on Instagram, but I've done some really nice dining table bases.
Okay.
That have finished really nicely, along with the whole product itself.
Yeah.
That once I've delivered them, they've looked really they've kind of made the room.
Did you know when you were delivering them that they were good? Or did you still have self-doubt? You knew they were good.
A little bit of self-doubt, but also that you do. There are times you stand back and go, smash this one.
That's lovely to hear as well. That's brilliant. Yeah, Mum, as a creative, I think would love to hear that answer. I think and you should send some pictures in, and we'll put them up on the Instagram when we release the episode. But thank you so much, Luke. Is genuinely, this podcast allowed me to meet some really interesting people, and you are one of them. And it's been a pleasure to get to know you, and a pleasure to get some of your work, and hopefully we can do more in the future. But it's been lovely chatting with you, mate. So thank you so much.
No, nice one.
Cheers. We're done. Hey, well done, mate. That was awesome. You smashed it. That was so good. Sorry about the sausage question. I thought I had to chuck it in at the end.